Turning now to Decision 2024, former President Trump wins the New Hampshire primary, but not the domination over Nikki Haley he was hoping for, only up 9%. And he was angry. Take a listen.
We have to do what's good for our party. And she was up, and I said, wow, she's doing like a speech like she won. She didn't win. She lost. She would be under investigation by those people in 15 minutes. And I could tell you 5 reasons why already. Not big reasons, a little stuff that she doesn't want to talk about, but she will be under investigation.
Didn't sound like a victory speech, but Haley says she's not backing down and not dropping out, and pundits say Trump's attacks may even have motivated her further to stay in the race. But is it just a matter of when she drops out and not if? Here to discuss this and more is Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Good morning, Caroline. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, Giselle.
So here we are. Trump wins New Hampshire, but only by 9 points. And his victory speech, as you just heard, felt more like a raging rant against Nikki Haley. And some pundits this morning are saying he missed the opportunity to claim and own the GOP nomination. Are they right?
I think they're right. There is no path forward for Nikki Haley. New Hampshire was her best shot. It is a state that has a lot of independent voters. If you see what comes next, she's going to be shellacked in the Nevada caucuses, and then, of course, a primary a month from now in her home state in South Carolina. This really was her last moment. So the question really is when she's going to drop out.
But take a listen, because it doesn't sound like that moment's coming anytime soon. Take a listen to what she had to say last night.
This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go. And the next one is my sweet state of South Carolina.
Her sweet state of South Carolina, where, as you pointed out, she is polling behind. So what is her next move, and what is her strategy right now? Just to get under the former president's skin and to drag it out as long as possible? For what reason?
Well, it's possible. I mean, she's looking at 2028 and wanting to keep her name in the papers as long as possible. But there's just no path forward. It'll all be decided, the length of time she's in the race, by Americans for Prosperity, her big major donor. And it's obviously not one entity, but lots of different folks. And at this point, we can't really believe what she is saying, because she is going to say she's going to stay in the race up until the moment that she's not, because she needs to continue to be seen as viable and get those contributions. But again, she doesn't have a path forward. It is a question of when she drops out, not if.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this moment in his victory rage speech against Haley last night. The former president was flanked by South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who was appointed to the Senate by Nikki Haley but endorsed Trump. And the former president was happy to point out the irony. Take a listen.
She actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
Well, this is the moment everyone is talking about this morning from Trump's speech. Tim Scott wants to be, obviously, his VP, but some say Trump put Scott in a really tough position. Did he?
He absolutely did. We know that Scott and Haley go way back, and it's been actually quite tense during this primary, given that they've gone toe-to-toe. I think Tim Scott would be a fantastic vice presidential pick. I was surprised he didn't do better in the primaries. But again, he's in a race which has really been a one-man race since the beginning with Donald Trump.
And even though Trump dominated, obviously, Caroline, I mean, in securing the nomination, there were some real warning signs from last night. What are they?
Warning signs would be that Donald Trump is not going to do well with independents. That 9-point lead, the fact that Haley was able to come within single digits because of independents, indicates that independent voters are not going to be as supportive of Donald Trump as he might need them to become the general election against Biden.
Right. And President Biden remarkably won in New Hampshire as a write-in candidate, but still polling so low, especially when it comes to the economy. Under President Biden, we've avoided a recession. The stock market is at record highs. Good job growth, billions of dollars pumped in through the Infrastructure Act. But New Hampshire voters said they believed the economy was better under Trump. So where's the disconnect here?
Well, the economy empirically was not better under Trump because we were in the midst of a global pandemic, which we apparently have forgotten about. But I think, or many of us, I think the big driving force here, though, when you look at polls, is inflation. And even though inflation has come way down and most prices have come way down, some prices are still lingering high, as well as the fact that we have resentment over that inflation. So the question is how long that lasts. And I think it's important to note that in 2023, about 50% of the inflation was driven by corporate greed and exploitation, and that's just not a conversation we have about inflation. Not to defend Biden, right? A lot more could have been done with the supply chain, but at the end of the day, it's about resentment over lingering inflation.
Right, and a lack of messaging from the Democratic Party to tout those successes more. At least that's what pundits are saying. You know, some have said that it's possible Nikki Haley is staying in this race, just waiting to see what happens with Trump's many court battles, especially at the Supreme Court. But we're also seeing that voters don't care about those indictments. They've said so, and believe it's a weaponization of justice. But if you're taking a look at those court cases, Caroline, which do you think posed the biggest threat to him, if any?
I think the January 6th, the D.C. case with Jack Smith poses the biggest threat because we're looking at possible felony crimes there. I think long term, the racketeering case in Georgia could spell trouble for Trump just because of the detail and evidence and the number of defendants in that case were now turning, and I assume will be many of them turning on each other. But in terms of jail time and the evidence, we're looking at the D.C. case as being the most threatening.
Yeah, but before I let you go, I want to ask you about the election interference case. DA Fani Willis being accused of an affair with the lead prosecutor, not against the law, but certainly bad optics. Should she step down?
She should. The Atlantic Constitution Journal has confirmed many of the details. It's not just an issue of optics, it's also an issue of ethics. If she does not step down and continues the case and is eventually removed, her entire team will be removed. And it will not only delay the case, it might stop the case altogether. If a new team comes on board, it's going to take them a very long time to get that together. If she steps down now, the rest of the team can move forward. In terms of the actual case happening, it would be very good for her to step down. But I think it would also be good in terms of seeing this case as being not a partisan, political witch hunt, as Trump has called it, because it's not. There's plenty of evidence here. So she's really harming the case by staying in that position.
All right, to be continued. Before I let you go, I had just a little tiny more time. In California, we just had our first Senate debate. The Democrats piling on Dodger great Republican candidate Steve Garvey. But Congressman Schiff still in the lead. How do you see this shaken out?
It's either going to be a really fun race with two Democrats because we're a state that's 3-1 Democratic with Schiff and probably Porter, or it's going to be a lopsided race with Schiff and Garvey. Garvey didn't do particularly well. He spoke in generalities at the debate. I wasn't impressed, so I'm hoping it's two Democrats, so at least we get more of a head-to-head race.
All righty. Caroline Heldman, we got through a lot. Professor of Critical Theory and Social Justice at Occidental College. As always, thank you for sharing with us your vital expertise. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Giselle.